the reason you've always felt out of sync with the world is because you were never meant to live at a frequency you weren't taught. What if your anxiety, your exhaustion, your feeling something's missing isn't a flaw but a signal? A signal that your body, your soul, and your energy field are trying to remember a deeper rhythm. Because beneath the noise of the world, beneath the expectations, the trauma, the conditioning, there is a pattern, a geometry, a sound, a frequency that you were born to align to. And when you remember it, not intellectually, but energetically, your entire reality begins to recognize itself. This isn't poetry. This is physics. This is ancient wisdom. And this is the part of you that has always known there is more. So if you've ever felt deeply affected by music, sound, or even just silence, drawn to sacred symbols without knowing why, activated by certain voices, tones, or chants, or like your body responds to things your mind can't explain, then stay with me, because today isn't about learning something new. It's about remembering what you already are. So if you're new here, hi, I'm Cherry, a spiritual life coach, energy alchemist, numerologist, and guide for those who are done living small, disconnected and out of alignment with their truth. I work with people who've tried mindset work, healing work, therapy, spirituality, and still feel like something hasn't quite clicked. And usually it's because they've been trying to think their way into wholeness, when what they really need is retune their frequency. Because healing isn't just emotional, manifestation isn't just mental, and spirituality isn't just belief. It's vibrational, it's resonance, it's geometry, moving through light and sound. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through how reality is actually constructed, why sound and frequency shape your emotions, body and consciousness, how sacred geometry is not symbolic, but structural, and how you can begin consciously working with these energies instead of being unconsciously shaped by them. This isn't about bypassing your humanity. It's about learning how to live in harmony with it. So take a breath, let your shoulders drop, and meet me here. Let's start with the truth that changes everything. Nothing you experience is solid. Not your body, not your emotions, not your thoughts, not even the physical world around you. At the most fundamental level, everything is energy in motion. Atoms aren't tiny balls of matter. They're vibrating fields of possibility. Your body is not a thing. It's a process, a living, breathing symphony of frequencies, constantly interfacing with its environment. And this is where so many people get stuck, because you've been taught to relate to life as if it's fixed. You are this way. Your past defines you. Your patterns are permanent. Your limitations are real. Frequency doesn't work like that. Frequency responds. It shifts. It entrains, which means the moment you change the vibration you're living in, your experience of reality begins to change too. This is why certain people drain you. Certain environments exhaust you. Certain music heals you. And certain moments feel like home. Your system is constantly asking one question. Does this match my frequency or pull me away from it? And most of us were never taught how to listen. Sound as the architecture of reality. Here's where it gets wild and grounded all at the same time. Sound is not just something you hear. Sound is mechanical vibration moving through space, which means sound doesn't just pass through your ears. It passes through your body. Your bones conduct sound. Your organs respond to it. Your nervous system entrains to it. This is why harsh noise creates stress. Repetitive sounds induce trance. Chanting regulates the vagus nerve. And silence can feel either terrifying or blissful. Your body knows sound before your mind interprets it. And ancient cultures understood this. They didn't use sound for entertainment. They used it for transformation. Temples weren't built for aesthetics. They were built as resonant chambers. Chants weren't prayers begging a god. They were frequency keys unlocking altered states of consciousness. And this is where geometry enters the conversation. Sacred geometry isn't symbolic, it's structural. Sacred geometry isn't spiritual decoration. It is the mathematics of creation. When vibration moves through space, it organizes itself into patterns. Those patterns are geometry. This is why the same shape appears everywhere. in galaxies, in flowers, in shells, in your DNA, in ancient temples, and in modern physics equations. The flower of life isn't a pretty symbol. It's a map of how energy becomes matter. And when sound moves through a medium, like sand, water, metal, it reveals those patterns. This is a science of cymatics. Sound doesn't create chaos. Sound creates order. So a higher coherence equals more complex geometry. Lower coherence equals distortion and collapse. Now pause for a moment and feel this land, because this applies to you. Your emotional state has a frequency. Your thoughts have a vibration. Your nervous system has a rhythm, and your life reflects the patterns those frequencies create. So let me give you a conversational truth bomb. This is where I lovingly call you out. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to try harder. You don't need another mindset hack. You need to stop living in frequencies that were never yours. The constant overgiving, the people-pleasing, the hypervigilance, the self-doubt loops. Those are not personality traits. They are frequency responses to environments that taught you to survive instead of resonate. And the moment you start working with sound, light, and frequency continuously, your system remembers safety, alignment, and power, all without force. Cymatics is the study of how sound creates form. And I want you to really let this land, because this is one of the clearest bridges between spirituality and science we have. When sound frequencies are played through a medium like sand, salt, water, metal plates, something extraordinary happens. The particles don't scatter randomly. They organize. They move into precise, symmetrical geometric patterns. And the higher and more coherent the frequency, the more complex and harmonious the pattern becomes. Lower distorted frequencies. Now, they create chaotic, broken, unstable forms, because this isn't just happening on metal plates in labs. This is happening inside you. Your body is mostly water, about 70%. Your nervous system is electrical. Your cells respond to vibration, which means your internal state is constantly being shaped by the frequencies you're exposed to, emotionally, environmentally, and relationally. This is why chronic stress collapses your energy. Unresolved trauma creates rigidity. Loving presence creates expansion. And certain sounds feel like they unlock something inside you, because you are not imagining this. Your body is responding exactly as it was designed to, because trauma isn't just memory, it's frequency. So here's something most healing spaces don't say clearly enough. Trauma isn't only what happens to you. Trauma is what never got to complete in your nervous system. It's like frozen energy. It's like an interrupted rhythm, a disrupted resonance. When something overwhelmingly happens, and your systems doesn't feel safe enough to process it fully, the frequency of that moment gets stored, not as a thought, as a vibration. This is why you can know something intellectually, like, I'm safe now, it wasn't my fault, I've healed this, and still react like a collapse, a freeze, or overgive, because the frequency never shifted. And sound is one of the fastest ways to access this layer. Not affirmation shouted at yourself, but vibration that speaks directly to your body. This is why humming calms anxiety. Chanting regulates the vagus nerve. Deep tones ground disassociation. And silence can feel unbearable for some people, but your anxiety is asking to be returned, not lectured. Your body is a living instrument. I want you to imagine this for a moment. Your body is not a machine. It's a musical instrument. Your spine is a resonant column. Your breath is the bow. Your voice is the tuning key. And your emotions are feedback signals letting you know when you're out of alignment. When you're constantly rushing, people-pleasing, ignoring your needs, or overriding your truth, it's like tightening a string too far. Eventually, it'll snap. Burnout, anxiety, chronic fatigue, autoimmune issues, emotional numbness. Not because you're broken, because you're not, but because the instrument is under constant strain. Sound, consciousness, intentional sound restores, harmonizes without force. And this is ancient. Ancient civilizations knew this. Egyptian temples were built with acoustic precision. Chants weren't random. They were tuned to specific chambers. Tibetan monks don't chant to feel spiritual. They chant to entrain the brainwaves. Gregorian chants weren't about religion. They were about coherence. Even standing stones weren't just markers. They were placed along ley lines, energetic pathways of the earth. Sound, geometry, and location worked together. And we lost this wisdom when we started worshipping speed, productivity, and logic over embodiment. But your body remembers. This is why this feels familiar, even if it's new to you. So let's have a real conversation. If you've ever felt emotionally overwhelmed by noise, soothed by deep voices or low tones, activated by chanting or singing bowls, or felt resistance to silence, or like certain sounds hit you straight in the chest, that's not sensitivity, that's attunement. You're not too much. You're just finely tuned into a world that's chronically dysregulated. And instead of learning to mute yourself, you've been invited to learn how to tune yourself. I want you to try something even just listening. Take a slow breath in through the nose, and as you exhale, hum gently. No melody, no performance, just vibration. Notice where you feel it. In your chest, in your throat, in your belly, jaw, head. That's all information. Your body is showing you where energy wants to move. This is why voice work can be deeply emotional. It bypasses the mind. It goes straight to the stored frequency. And when sound meets awareness, healing happens organically. Not forced, not dramatic, just natural reorganization. And here's where this gets even deeper. Your cells don't just respond to sound. They organize according to geometry. DNA itself forms a geometric structure. Your energy field arranges itself in patterns. And when frequency changes, geometry changes. Which means when you calm your nervous system, your energy field reorganizes. When you release stored emotion, your internal geometry shifts. When you enter coherence, your entire system becomes more efficient. This is why people often feel lighter, clearer, more themselves after sound healing. It's not a placebo. It's pattern correction. You cannot heal in environments that constantly distort your frequency. No amount of meditation will override disrespect, chronic overextension, or self-abandonment. That's not spiritual failure. That's physics. You never change, or the frequency changes you. And this is where boundaries stop being personal and start being energetic hygiene. I want to move on to the chakra system as a frequency map. Chakras are often taught like static energy wheels. That's not quite accurate. Chakras are dynamic frequency centers, living responsive points where physical, emotional, and mental and energetic information meets. Think of them less like spinning discs and more like radio receivers. Each one tunes into a specific band of frequency, governs particular emotional themes, and responds to sound, breath, and awareness. When a chakra is balanced, the signal is crystal clear. When it's overloaded or suppressed, the signal will distort. And distortion doesn't mean bad. It means the system adapted to survive. Root chakra is the frequency of safety and survival at 396 Hz. The root isn't about fear. It's about belonging in the body. When the root frequency is coherent, you feel grounded. You trust life. Your body feels like home. When it's distorted, anxiety can live in your legs and gut. You overwork to feel safe. You stay in situations that drain you because stability feels scary. Sound at this frequency doesn't just calm you, it reassures your body that it's allowed to exist. This is why low rhythmic tones feel grounding. Your nervous system really relaxes because it recognizes the signal. The sacral chakra frequency of flow and emotion is at 417 Hz. The sacral is water, emotional creativity, pleasure connection. When this frequency flows, emotions move without the overwhelm. Creativity feels natural. Intimacy feels safe. But when it's blocked, emotional numbness or flooding, guilt around pleasure, you have difficulty receiving. Sound here can feel uncomfortable at first. Why? Because it's loosening what's been held. This is where people cry during sound baths, not because something is wrong, but because energy finally has permission to move. The solar plexus frequency of power and identity is at 528 Hertz. This one gets talked about a lot and misunderstood even more. 528 Hertz isn't about forcing confidence. It's about alignment. When this center is coherent, your yeses and nos are clean. You act from an inner authority. You don't need to prove yourself. When it's distorted, you go into people-pleasing, trying to control issues. Self-doubt masked as over-functioning. Sound at this frequency recognizes your sense of self, not by hyping you up, but by bringing you back into eternal congruence. The heart chakra frequency of coherence is 639 Hertz. The heart is where everything integrates. Mind, body, emotion, spirit. This frequency literally creates coherence between systems, which is why heart-based sound feels expansive, but also why it can feel vulnerable, because coherence requires honesty. You cannot open your heart and keep betraying yourself. This is where grief surfaces. This is where forgiveness happens. This is where self-compassion becomes embodied. The throat chakra frequency of truth and expression is 741 Hertz. This isn't just about speaking. It's about allowing energy to move outwards. Suppressing truth doesn't disappear. It stagnates, which is why throat-related issues often show up alongside resentment, conflict, or feeling unseen. Sound here vibrates the jaw, neck, and chest. People often feel emotional release here because expression has been withheld for safety. The third eye frequency of perception is 852 Hertz. This center governs intuition, pattern recognition, discernment, not fantasy, not escape, but perception. When balanced, you trust your inner knowing. You read situations clearly. You're less reactive. But when it's distorted, you start to move into the overthinking, disassociation, confusion master spirituality. Sound here gets mental noise, not by suppressing thought, but by shifting awareness to a higher resolution. The crown frequency of unity is 963 Hertz. This is not about leaving your body. It's about recognizing connection. When this frequency flows, you feel supported by something larger. Life feels meaningful. Surrender feels safe. When it's overactive, you're moving into spiritual bypassing, a disconnection from the body, difficulty with practical life. Balance here comes from integration, not ascension. Consciousness follows frequency. You don't need consciousness to think harder. You raise it by stabilizing coherence. When your frequency aligns, your perception changes. Your reactions soften. Your choices become clearer. This is why people say sound healing changes their life without being able to explain how, because their internal environment reorganized. So if you're still here trying to fix yourself, you're working against your design. Your system doesn't need correction. It needs resonance. The question isn't what's wrong with me. It should be what frequency am I living in and is it actually mine? Up until now, we've explored frequency as something that affects your emotions, nervous system, and consciousness. Now I want to move into the field that organizes all of it, your Merkaba. And before anyone's mind jumps to something abstract or out there, let me ground this immediately. The Merkaba is not a concept you believe in. It's a functional energy system that activates through coherence. When the Merkaba actually is no fluff, the Merkaba is the light body, the energetic energy field created when consciousness, breath, sound, and intention align. Think of it like this. Your body equals the instrument. Your breath equals the power source. Your awareness equals the conductor. Your frequency equals the code. When those aligned, geometry activates naturally. Not because you forced it, because coherence creates structure. This is why ancient teachings never separated breath, sound, light, or geometry. They knew activation wasn't mental. It was psychological and energetic. The Merkaba is often represented as two interlocking tetrahedrons. But here's the key thing most people miss. It doesn't activate by visualization alone. Visualization without embodiment is just imagination. Activation happens when breath stabilizes the nervous system. Sound entrains the brainwaves. Attention creates coherence. And intention gives direction. This is why people say, I tried Merkaba meditation and nothing happened. Because they skipped the frequency prep. You cannot access higher order geometry from a dysregulated system. That's not spirituality. That's mechanics. Breath is the first key. Why? Because breath is the bridge between conscious and unconscious, voluntary and involuntary, physical and energetic. Fast, shallow breathing equals fragmented frequency. Slow, rhythmic breathing equals coherent field. This is why every ancient tradition began with breath. Not affirmation, not mantras, but breath. Because breath tells your system you are safe enough to reorganize. Once breath stabilized the system, sound becomes the catalyst. Because sound creates rhythm, carries intention, moves energy through space. This is why toning, chanting, and harmonic sounds are used in Merkaba work. Not because they're mystical, but because they move energy in spirals, not straight lines. Spirals create rotation. Rotation creates fields. Fields create protection and expansion. Now, light isn't just illumination. Light is data. Different wavelengths carry different instructions. When your system is coherent, it can receive those instructions. This is why visualizing light feels powerful and grounded, but disassociating when not. Light amplifies whatever state you're in, which means embodiment comes first, because you don't need to see anything. You don't need to force anything. You just need to allow the breath to slow. So imagine your breath moving in gentle rhythms like waves, not effort. Feel vibration move through your chest, your spine, your head. Use your heartbeat. If images arise, let it. If it doesn't, trust the sensation. Because activation isn't visual, it's felt. And when it locks in, people often report a sense of expansion, warmth or tingling, clarity, emotional release, or deep stillness. All valid, all signs of coherence. And here's a crucial teaching. Now, the Merkaba is not about leaving this world. It's about being fully present in it without being fragmented. A coherent field means you're less affected by other people's chaos. You hold your boundaries naturally. Your intuition sharpens. Your energy stops leaking. This is why spiritual people who avoid embodiment burnout. They activate up without stabilizing in. The Merkaba requires both. So let's be honest. If you're exhausted all the time, if you feel pulled in a million directions, if you absorb everyone's emotions, if you overgive and underreceive, your field isn't weak. It's open without the structure. And structure is not restriction. Structure is sovereignty. This is where it stops being a meditation practice and starts being a way of life. Living in coherence means choosing environments that respect your frequency, saying no without justification, resting before you collapse, using sound intentionally, honoring your body's rhythms, not perfection, but presence. And up until now, we've explored sound, light, geometry, and the Merkaba as experiences. But now comes the most part teaching skip, integration. Because frequency work isn't about when it's occasional. It's powerful when it's lived. One of the biggest mistakes people make in spiritual spaces is thinking, if I do something big enough, deep enough, intense enough, I'll change. That's not how frequency works. Frequency shifts through repetition and rhythm, not force. Your nervous system doesn't trust intensity. It trusts predictability. This is why a daily 3-minute hum can be more powerful than a once-in-a-month ceremony. Gentle breathwork rewires faster than extreme catharsis. Subtle shifts create lasting coherence. Your system changes when it feels safe enough to stay open. So let's make this human and realistic. You don't need a perfect altar, hours of meditation, or high vibe everything. What you need is intentional moments of resonance. Here are grounded ways you can integrate this. Humming while you're making tea. Playing grounding frequencies while you're cooking. Using silence intentionally instead of scrolling. Choosing music based on emotional regulation, not distraction. Noticing how certain voices, podcasts, or sound effects affects your body. Sound becomes powerful when it's chosen, not background noise. Not everything labeled high frequency is regulating. Sometimes it's dislocating. If someone is constantly bypassing anger, forcing positivity, avoiding rest, ignoring your boundaries, chasing activation after activation, that's not ascension. That's avoidance dressed up as spirituality. True frequency work grounds you, stabilizes you, strengthens your boundaries, makes your no's clear and your yeses clearer. If something pulls you away from your body, it's not coherence. Your frequencies shape your boundaries. So here's the reframe you may need. Boundaries are not something you do. They're something that naturally emerges when your field is coherent. When you're regulated, you don't over-explain. You don't chase validation. You don't leak your energy. You don't absorb everyone else's emotions. Not because you've become hardened, but because your system is now whole. This is what energetic sovereignty actually looks like. If you've been overgiving, if you've been questioning your worth, if you've been trying to heal instead of honor yourself, nothing has gone wrong. You've just been living out of tune. And tuning doesn't require fixing. It requires remembering. You're not here to vibrate higher than life. You're here to resonate with it, to move in rhythm, to respond instead of react, to live from coherence instead of the collapse. Sound, light, geometry, frequency, they're not outside of you. They are the language your soul has always spoken. And the moment you stop trying to become someone else, your system remembers who you've always been. So if something in this video felt familiar, if your body responded before your mind understood, if it felt less like learning and more like remembering, that's because this work isn't new to you. It's ancient. And if you want to continue this remembrance in your own time, I've created a free Lemurian wisdom guide, a gentle entry point into the frequencies, symbols, and teachings we've touched on today. It's not information overload. It's a remembering. Inside you'll reconnect with Lemurian consciousness, sacred geometry and light codes, and the deeper soul wisdom that lives beneath modern conditioning. You can download it for free. The link's in the description box below. And before you go, if this video resonated, if it slowed you down, grounded you, or opened something within you, make sure you subscribe and tap that notification bell, because this channel isn't just content. It's a sacred space of remembrance, recalibration, and coming home to yourself. It's where new transmissions drop regularly, and each one builds on the last, guiding you to deeper into coherence, sovereignty, and embodied truth. So download the Lemurian Guide, subscribe, stay connected, and let this work meet you exactly where you are. You're not here to become someone new. You're here to remember who you've always been. So until next time, with love and resonance, bye for now.